Hey guys, my name is Kalen Ashcroft. Thanks for watching Cashcroft TV. Today we're going to be doing two more of Plutarch's Lives, Lycurgus and Numa Pompilius from, as mentioned, Plutarch's Lives. Yeah, I guess we'll just start off. So Lycurgus was from Sparta. His brother was king of Sparta, and after his brother passed away, he was offered the throne. However, his brother's wife wanted the throne to go to her son, and she was worried that Lycurgus would take it, which he pretty much had the right to do so. So, avoiding any austerity or any worry from the people, he chose to just leave and not accept the throne. So he went off on a great trip of learning across the land. Some say he got as far as Egypt, where supposedly he learned about the division between soldiers and laborers. Some say he got as far as Asia and India, but nonetheless he studied Homer extensively and later brought that back to Sparta, and in some ways he's one of the key reasons why people read Homer even still to this day. So when he got back to Sparta, they were pretty much begging him to become leader because they trusted him so much. He had no intention of taking the throne, hence he even left. So eventually he chose to take it, and he made many great legal changes and political changes. Firstly, he created this thing called the Greek Retra, pretty much very contrary to the American system. It was a completely verbal constitution. I guess the opposite of constitutionalism, but he also, so Sparta had been going through problems with anarchy, so too much democracy and too much tyranny. So what he did was he instilled 28 men who did not necessarily make the laws, but they called upon the people to create votes for any given case. So that kind of settled the conflict between democracy and tyranny in the region. At the point, there was a big class divide, and the wealth was very unevenly distributed. So he rounded up all the land and divided it up into 30,000 pieces and divided it amongst the people. So pretty much completely equalized the economy. Similarly, he also banned the usage of gold and silver, which were the common currencies amongst Greek communities at the time, and created his own currency of iron ingots. So this was it accomplished twofold. Firstly, it was protectionist in the sense that it made trade with other Greek states more difficult and promoted trade within Sparta. And similarly, it just the currency was so big and heavy, it just sort of prevented capitalism altogether. In some ways, I think he could be seen as the first real socialist or communist leader in history. And in some ways, he might have been the only one to have actually properly implemented it. Because I guess at this time, the communities were not as dependent on innovation or production or anything, so they could beat other Greek societies just by producing the best warriors, which leads to his next great reform. He created this thing called the agoge, which is essentially when a male reached the age of 7, they would be sent to military school. There they were only, they trained naked until the age of 12, so they believed that made your skin tougher. It's kind of a weird thing, and I guess it was more common in Greece, but at the age of 12, they were also given an older male as a sexual partner. Supposedly, it was kind of like mentorship, but it was also kind of just not very appropriate. But they also promoted that the females trained too, so the females had to be very strong as well. They believed that only a Spartan woman could breed a Spartan child. They trained until the age of 21. And from there, they tried to enter into one of these clans, or messes, they called them. And if they failed to get into a mess by the age of 30, they never became a Spartan citizen. Voting privileges came at the age of 30, which is quite old considering I don't think life expectancy was very high. Perhaps it's around 60. But nonetheless, through his political reforms, he created one of the greatest war societies ever in perhaps the world, and created a level of equality and that the world has probably never seen since, and probably never will see again. But yeah, so we'll probably go back to that a bit more when we compare him with Numa Pompilius. By the way, he was born in approximately 800 BC to 730 BC. So a little bit after Theseus, a couple hundred years after Theseus. Numa Pompilius was born in 753 BC and died in 763 BC. So, as kind of, there was, when Rome was first established, there was the combination of the Romans and the Sabines. Titius was the king of the Sabines, but he mysteriously died. But his one daughter married this guy named Numa Pompilius. They happily married, and then eventually she died, and Numa Pompilius wanted nothing to do with politics, so he just left. But similarly with Lycurgus, the people wanted him to lead so badly that eventually they kind of forced him to, but he decided only if he heard a sign from the gods would he, or the god of Jupiter, would he consent to being leader, which conveniently happened for him. And so kind of by both divine reason and popularity, he became a very popular and powerful leader. The first thing he did was he disbanded the King's Royal Guard. This kind of was a sign to the people that they didn't need to fear the king, and that he trusted the people. He was really, I think, and I guess also kind of symbolic for him, was he was one of the first things he did was establish the Temple of Janus. So Janus is this, let's see, Janus is a two-headed, two-faced Greek, a Roman god. And for Numa Pompilius, one side represented war and one side represented peace. But I think more importantly, at the time, Rome was war, and Numa Pompilius really brought the second phase, which was peace. And he promoted all sorts of religious ceremonies and peace amongst the people, something that Romulus or Remus never even considered. And this is probably, without Numa Pompilius, Rome would have been probably maintained as tyrannical and never would have been as great a state. Rome obviously was a great empire ultimately, but they were also one of the greatest producers of art throughout history, and I think Numa Pompilius is very much responsible for that. Also, I guess one of his biggest influences was that he added to the Roman calendar the months of January and February. January for Janus, his favorite god, and February for a spiritual ceremony. I think it's called like Februa or something like that. Ultimately he died of old age. I actually forgot to say why Lycurgus died. When Lycurgus died, he told the people that once he was going away, and then once he returned, they could remove the laws. But supposedly he starved himself to death, which was kind of his way of keeping the laws forever. So yeah, in aggregate, I think the main comparison between these two leaders is they were both very populist leaders. We're seeing a lot of populism in today's politics. The people wanted them so bad, and the fact that they turned down the offers originally made them all the more appealing to their people. Similarly, they were very much for equality and supporting all people. I guess one of the main differences that the primary and ultimate objective of Lycurgus was to create a strong military, whereas Numa Pompilius was really not that concerned with it. His end goal was actually the contrary, and that was peace. So, yeah, that's Lycurgus and Numa Pompilius. And yeah, I hope you watch the next video, and I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks so much.